Hi, my name is John, and this video is both a spoiler-free review and a spoiler discussion of the book Dragons of Winter Night by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. This is the second book in the Dragonlance Chronicles series. I read the book in the Annotated Chronicles, which is the trilogy with annotations by the authors and several other of the Dragonlance design team. I do recommend reading a standard version of the trilogy the first time you go through this, as the annotations do contain spoilers. My biggest complaint about this book is that it tries to cover too much ground. The scenes that got cut from this book are the scenes that I actually would have liked to have read more about. They're only briefly described. The other major problem I have with this book is it introduces new characters, and at this point, there are too many characters to follow effectively, and some of the characters from the first novel have gotten pushed to the side. Lastly, I do have some issues with one of the plot points, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section. Here's what I liked about this book. In my review for the first one, I noted that the writing of the first book really is not that good. In the second one, the authors have definitely become more familiar with each other as writers and in the act of writing novels, and the writing does not get in the way of the storytelling in this novel. There are some really great character interactions that built upon the relationships formed in the first book and are continued in this one. I think how Weis and Hickman write characters is why these characters are so beloved. The end result of this is that this winds up being a very average novel. I gave the novel 3 stars because the pluses of the novel kind of outweigh the negative of the novel for me. This is still an enjoyable read, and I still would recommend it for anyone interested in the history of fantasy literature. I had a really good discussion live with several other great booktubers. The host was Ponderings of Pete. Also joining us were Andrew's Wizardly Reads, Nico's Book Review, Beth Ann Bruninga Sokolar, and She Was Only Evie. If you've read the book and you want to listen to an interesting discussion about the book, I would suggest checking out that video. I had a lot of fun with that discussion. Now I want to talk about one of the things that is a spoiler for the novel that kind of bothered me. So proceed at your own risk. I do encourage you to read this novel before you watch the rest of the video. If you have seen my original spoiler discussion of the Chronicles as a whole, you will remember that I found Sturms Death to be kind of pointless. As I reread this novel, I paid special attention to the sequences leading up to Sturms Death, just so that I could get a new opinion of it. I think now I kind of understand why the authors decided to kill Sturm. It will make more sense in the third novel. What I think now is the authors just did a bad job kind of plotting out how the events take place. In my opinion, this scene should have been rewritten for a different sequence of events. Basically, what the authors are intending is that Sturm is supposed to stand solo on the tower's walls to give the rest time to set up their trap. However, there's no real need for this entire sequence to have taken place. The dragon armies have reduced the defenders to such a low number that the dragon armies very easily could have scaled the walls and invaded the keep. There really wasn't much reason for the dragons to even get involved. What I think would have made more sense would have been if Sturm would have stood in front of one of the tunnels that led to the dragon orb. This way, the dragons would have been close enough to the tunnels to have heard the dragon orbs call and then flown into the tunnels. I also have problems where Lorana actually watches Sturms Death, and then she's expected to run all the way through the tunnels, take command of the orb, and then use the orb to call the dragons. We see that the dragons are actually attacking the walls in order that the dragon armies may enter. Really, Sturm did not need to stand on the walls to save them time. The dragons were attacking the walls, and he very easily could have stayed inside the tower with the rest of the crew. Or, as I mentioned earlier, stood in front to draw them in. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the end of the second book. If you'd like to share your thoughts, feel free to in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.